Happy Thursday, everybody. I did say yesterday that I would talk a little bit about my menopause and my HRT following the diagnosis of breast cancer. I have my letter actually from my consultant here, and just for anyone who's like me, really interested in delving into stuff, my type of cancer, it's called ER8, which is, I think, estrogen positive 8, PR7, I think that means progesterone, HER2 negative. So it's grade 1, which is really good, tubular carcinoma, ER8, PR7, HER2 negative. So so basically I just wanted to talk about my menopause, or at least perimenopause. So for me, what happened was it was during COVID and during lockdown. I was living with my mum, just me and my mother, and it was a very, very strange time for everybody, including me. My life before lockdown was the gym every day, getting the bus into work. I was working in Trinity College, in the main building of Trinity College. Beautiful office. I was organising the Trinity week, which was amazing. It was people coming over from the States and authors, and it was amazing. It was and it had a great theme. The theme was the blue zones of the world, which some of you might be aware. Blue zones are where people live longer, and they're healthier and all of that. So it was really good. And I have always been into alternative medicine and meditation and all of that stuff. So I've been into that stuff for many years. So for me, when I got this contract to organize that, I was thrilled. I didn't like the idea of going in on the bus because I get bus sick. I've always worked very near where I live, so to go into town, which is literally, if there's no traffic, it's from where I lived, it would have been only genuinely 15 minutes with no traffic, but obviously. So I thought, well, Niamh, you're going to have to embrace this, and I'm always, ready for a change. So I don't know, some of you will remember, and I think I can imagine the people who will say they remember. I used to post, to try and help me in getting the bus, I used to post about my trip in the bus that morning. So I'd be saying, I think there was a guy called Sexy Eyes, and then there was, Miss Prim and Proper, and I had these characters, and they got on the bus every day, and I used to listen to my 80s music. And I have to say, I was flying. It was great. So I was working in there. I loved my job, loved the people I worked with. I was in the gym. I loved the gym. I had amazing gym instructors. I did Zumba, I did boxing, I did swimming, aquafit. I was very fit. I was, mentally, physically, everything very, very healthy. And I really loved my life. And I remember saying to the gym manager one day, I said, "You don't realize how much this saves my life." I said, on every level, because I was in that gym for years now. Not an odd time I came out of the gym and I would try another gym or whatever. But since that particular gym opened, it was Jackie Skelly's at the time when it opened, and now I think it's Gym Plus in Nookgrove. Amazing gym, amazing staff, amazing facilities, the most amazing view. It's very hard to find a gym after that, because when you're working out and everything, just the view, and everyone's so friendly, and it's not a snobby gym, and it's not a real gym. It's brilliant. I loved it. And I loved my area, so I was living a really good life. And I knew it. That I'm not the type to say, you miss something after it's gone. I'm very appreciative of things at the time, and I'm very aware of how lucky I am in the moment and all of that. So, lockdown, I actually was working in Trinity when I think the first case broke out. One of the guys in my department, not directly my building, but my department, I think went to Italy and came back and got it. So I think Trinity College was the first place to close its doors, basically. So then I was working from home. Um, aside from, maybe I'll talk again about actually COVID and lockdown itself. This is more about how my perimenopause came to a fore. So I started, I was still part of the gym. I was still paying. I think they asked you to pay half, and I was still kind of where you could go to the car park and we were doing bits and pieces. I was out walking. I was, still kind of doing some things. I mean, things were still kind of okay and open and stuff like that, and that was fine. Um, but as time went on, I mean, the summer was great. We all loved the sun. Remember the first lockdown was fabulous, and it was like the summer holidays from school when we were kids. And I mean, we were blessed with the weather all over the world. Well, now in saying that, people in Spain weren't blessed. If they didn't have a balcony, they were in their homes in little apartments with kids, and they were only allowed out for an hour or whatever. I think Scotland, where I am now, was pretty liberal, a bit like Ireland, liberal in the sense that you could kind of go for a walk for a few hours. You could kind of go different places. Now, I didn't mix with people. I was very good because living with my mum, mum would have been about, I don't know, 90 at the time, 89, 90. So I remember, I'd be on to my friends, and a lot of people, as we know, we all contacted each other from the past, and thank God there was Facebook and all of that stuff. And I was getting through it and everything was fine. And then I started just feeling insane. And I remember ringing my doctor and saying, there's something wrong with me. I think I'm bipolar. I think I've this, I think of that. So they tried to give me antidepressants, and I kept saying, because I have known depression. I've known depression. This was not depression. I kept saying, it's something different. I think I'm going insane. It's a different feeling, and I couldn't express it. It was like just my thoughts. I wasn't starting not to sleep. I've always had insomnia, but this was like just not sleeping right. And then I think sometimes I had this tiny winchy fever. I'd say, God, I think I have a fever. Is it hot in here? That kind of like, oh, is anyone else hot? I'm really hot, but not hot flushes like other people have, in the sense of soaking bed and all of that. For me, it was the mind. And then I was beginning to forget things. So people were saying, Niamh, it's stress. You're worried about your mum. Like I was with my mum all the time, and they were saying, oh, that's called carers fatigue. And it's just, everyone's like that with COVID and all of that. And then I was going through, my job then ended because we were going to do the Trinity week online, and then they decided in the April they weren't going to do it. I think towards the end of April they decided they weren't going to do it even online. So then my contract was terminated. So then I did do a few different things. I worked for the Irish the ICG, which is the Irish College of General Practitioners. I worked then for Trinity again in their administrative kind of, part of their administration team. And then I did a lot of different bits and pieces, but I was going for interviews around that time. So the Zoom thing, I found it very, very difficult. I don't know about anyone else, but I find when you can see yourself on screen and you're talking to somebody else, which you're kind of fixing your hair and you're kind of conscious. And but I remember my interviews, and I've always been very relaxed in interviews, quite confident. I had no confidence. I just kept forgetting words. So they'd say, so where was the last place you worked, Neve? And I couldn't remember. Like I'd get this block and then this fear, or and tell me again, what exactly would did you do or whatever? And there were just words. I couldn't remember words, names of companies, places, bosses, courses I'd done, what year I did stuff. I couldn't remember, like, going from, what role went from where to, in order. And I remember going for a particular role, which was very near my house, and I was going for a personal assistant. And I remember I literally just blanked. It was shocking. It was really, really bad and quite scary. And I pretended in the interview, my mum had walked into the room. I was like, oh, excuse me for a moment. And I was like, sorry, that's just my mum. And trying to remember words, and it was horrible. It was a horrible time. I literally thought I was going insane. I thought I had dementia. I thought there was something not right. I knew I didn't have depression because I could pick myself up pretty quickly. Once I walked my dog, once I would meet my friend Catherine all the time. She was in my bubble. There was me, Catherine, and Mum, basically. And we walked, she saved me, and I'm sure I saved her during lockdown and during the COVID time. And I remember, meeting her, and it would lift me, and she'd come to the house, or me and Mum would go for a walk or whatever it was, and I can be lifted, a bit of sunshine, sit out the back garden. I loved spending time with Mum. Absolutely. I loved that time. I remember knowing that was a very, very precious time for me and Mum. So it wasn't depression. I was getting these weird feelings of like heat, but like a sick feeling with it. And then it would go. And of course, thinking I had COVID, but then knowing I didn't. And so I just thought natural, all natural. So I was looking up natural. I was trying natural stuff and everything. And I got a job again in Trinity. And I think this is where we could go into the offices, but we had to be on our own in an office. So I had my own office. There was another girl that worked there, another woman, and she was never there. So she came in one day, and I said, oh, I didn't know you were going to be in. I wouldn't have been in. And she said, no, I'm just coming to pick something up. She was working from home. And we were chatting about stuff, and she said, I have an appointment with my menopause specialist or something. And we just got talking. And I said, I think I've perimenopause and all the rest. So she said, and are you on HRT? And I said, oh, well, no, I'm not. I don't have the menopause. It's peri. Now, perimenopause can go on for years. You can get perimenopause starting in your mid-30s or whatever, or earlier in some cases. So I said no. And basically what perimenopause is, it's before menopause, but we're all born with, every woman's born with all these hormones, and they start leaving our body after the time that nature decides you don't need them anymore to produce babies. So your estrogen starts leaving first. So when estrogen starts leaving your body, you start having side effects. And that would be, we all know the hot flushes, whatever. And there's a lot of different headaches and whatever. Some people have weight gain or fatigue, and in my case as well, a lot of pain. Now I was diagnosed in 2011 with fibromyalgia. You can only have it in, say, 10 points in your body or something, and I had it in every point in my body. Rheumatology is the one that diagnosed that. So my fibromyalgia was coming up again for me, and I was in a lot of pains and aches and stuff like that. And so anyway, this woman started talking to me, and she said, you really need to look into HRT. And I was like, no, I'm not into medication. I don't take anything for my fibromyalgia. I tried over the years, nothing worked. And then they wanted to up my dose, and it just didn't work. And I was like, well, what are the side effects? And I'd always wonder, what are the side effects? Is it worth taking medication, basically? So I've an underactive thyroid full disclosure, I have an underactive thyroid that was diagnosed when I was 28, and I've been on L-troxin, which is thyroxine, all those years. I've tried to look into alternatives and I've never found any. But anyway, now apparently it's natural. The L-troxin is natural. I don't know. People can correct me in the comments, whatever. But I'm okay on that. But it's been going up and down. My thyroid has been going underactive. I've have an underactive, but it's been going underactive, overactive, and I was fine for years. So I know that it's just this hormonal changes and stuff like that. So she said to me, just look into it. So I look into anything, and she explained to me. She said, it's all natural now. All your HRT is natural. It's not like years ago you took the tablet and it was fabricated from, like not coming from natural. I can't remember the word now I'm looking for, but so I said, okay. And then she said, have you any like dementia in the family? And I said, yeah, my mum. And she went, all right. And then she said, have you any like heart disease? And I went, yeah, my mum. And she said, and all of her family basically. And she said, I'd really look into it, Niamh, because she said, all of these hormones that are leaving your body, we need to keep healthy and to stay strong. And it's good for your heart and it's good for your brain, and you need progesterone and you need, all these things. And then, do you remember Davina McCall? She was huge then. She came out about all the menopause, and it was all around the same time. So I'm watching Davina McCall and she's talking about testosterone. And then that really resonated with me because she said, for memory, I had lost my oomph and my fire in my belly, and that's the masculine hormone. I've always had this fire in my belly and, going for the best jobs and just always having this, feeling within me that I want to learn and I want to change and I want to move on and I want to do all these things. And that was all gone. It was like, whatever, like genuinely, it's like, whatever. And then, so I've no memory. I'm very fuzzy all the time. I've no get up and go. I'm tired all the time. I'm in agony. All my muscles and everything are sore. And I'm just like, is this it? Is this my life? Blah, blah, blah. No, like, even like sexual attraction to people. It's like, I'm not even... that was when my friend turned around to me and she said, did you not even notice him? And I was like, no, couldn't be bothered. And she went, oh my God, there's definitely something wrong with you. That's when she said, okay, there's definitely something wrong. And so when you look all this up and, whatever. So I joined a group on Facebook, which this girl in work told me to do. She said, join them. They're amazing. And they are amazing. It's an amazing group. And I did 2 courses. So I did like Introduction to Menopause, and there was another one. I think there was Introduction to Menopause, and then there's the second one you can do. And I did the 2 of them. And then I also did a 1-to-1 with the woman who set this up. And it was all so amazing. And she was saying things like, when people are diagnosed with fibromyalgia, a lot of the time it can be your estrogen leaving your body. So it's not really fibromyalgia. It's actually just your body needs estrogen. Your body needs progesterone. A lot of women are told they have depression when they come to a certain age, and it's not depression. And antidepressants are thrown at everybody. You've got depression. And you see, you have to remember, a lot of people during lockdown, women of a certain age and men as well. Men go through losing kind of their hormones leave their body too, and they call it the midlife crisis. But and men lose interest in sex and things like that as well, and that's their testosterone leaving their body. So remember, a lot of people, relationships were ending during lockdown because couples were left together. Firstly, mentally, people weren't going out to work, they weren't going to the gym, they weren't meeting up with their friends, they weren't meeting up together with their friends, they weren't doing going for meals. They weren't doing all the things that us as humans have learned. Like I discovered that I had built up a life that had helped me cope with being me. So I was learning how to be around people and to keep me mentally well and physically well, and helping me just cope with the head that I have, because I have a very different head. I'm obsessive, I've OCD, I, you know, I need to be stimulated all the time. I get bored, um, and I go into this negativity quite a bit. Like I'm very pensive, and I worry about life and the cycle of life, and I worry about, you know, people's health and my mom and my dog and my, you know, so I have to do certain things to be upbeat, and I learned those over the years. I try this and go, that really works, and or I build this up. Like the gym is momentum, and I built up my momentum over a long period of time, and then I started to really love it, and I was as fit as a fiddle, and I was doing every class, and genuinely I was probably the fittest I've ever been, just coming into COVID. And you know, I think relationships started to break down around this time, because some people were going through menopause, perimenopause, which in fact we can keep the symptoms at bay if we're in the gym, if we're eating really healthy, if we're you know, working, you know, we're in a community, and all these things are better, you know, when we're doing all those things. Basically, you know, they'd say, you know, all of that stuff anyway helped me. So I didn't even notice any of this stuff until I'm in lockdown. There's all this fear going around the world. It's going into my head. I'm thinking we're all going to die. What's going to happen? I'm worried about everything. And then you're left with your thoughts. Then I started thinking my whole life, you know, you start thinking of your childhood and blah, blah, blah. So I was left at an absolute wreck. I knew I had a depression, but I knew it could have been like a mixture of anxiety and a mixture of stuff. I didn't know. I thought it was all mental. It wasn't physical. So as I said, I looked into it and I thought, oh my God, I really need to think about this. So I did the courses and I looked into it and I did all my research and I did all this, you know, on this particular group on Facebook. I went into the group and I asked all these questions and I was getting them all back and blah, blah, blah. So I changed doctor, because a doctor, it's another thing, the doctor said specialises in menopause. So I thought, that's brilliant. So I went up to this doctor. Friend of mine on Facebook at the time said, oh my God, my doctor's amazing, go to her. So I registered with her and I went to her, and she hadn't a clue. She said, look, I really don't know, like, what you should be on and what you should do and so I had all this information pack that I'd printed out from the courses I'd done, which was amazing stuff, and I showed her. And I said, this is what I want. I want testosterone, which she was like, what? I want testosterone. You only take a tiny bit. Testosterone, because this is what the woman in Trinity was on. So she told me what she was on, and la la la. And you only start off with a little bit of estrogen. You have to take progesterone if you still have a womb. So it doesn't build up the lining of the wall of the womb, and you don't get cancer. So you have to have progesterone if you're taking estrogen and you have a womb. Some people have their wombs removed, so then they don't need progesterone. And then you also need, so that was basically what I was doing. Wasn't rocket science, started taking it, and after a couple of weeks I felt amazing. And my doctor said to me, you know, she was going to really look up this stuff and learn about it. I was a bit annoyed because a lot of doctors have got on the bandwagon at this stage, because if you've information on HRT, you get the crowd in. It was, you know, you get the crowd in. But to go to a specialist, it costs, I think, 200-300. And, you know, I just went to my doctor, told her what I wanted to be on. She put me on it, and it was actually fine. And I felt the memory was coming back, the oomph was coming back, I could, the confidence because I could remember words, and I felt energy come back. The pain was easing. I was sleeping at night now. Progesterone at night helps you sleep like a baby. And progesterone calms you. I was like, this is the way I used to feel. So I felt amazing. And I felt amazing, and I felt amazing. And then when things would shift, they'd say, you up your dose, you up your dose, you up your dose. So I was upping my dose, and I was upping my dose. So I was starting off like I was on gel, estrogen gel, the most natural, they said. Well, I was on the patch first, and then the patch kept falling off, and I just thought, you know what, I'll go to the gel. So I went to the gel, estrogen gel, every night, and I was doing 1, 2, and then I was doing a little bit of testosterone, and also then there's an estrogen insertion tablet which you use twice a week, whatever. That's kind of a bit too much information. And then so I was doing that, and that's fine. And then I just upped it to 3. Then I went up to 4. Then I went down to 3. Then I went up to 4. As your body feels, and that's what they say, you know your own body. So when I was here, and I can see that I'm a long time on this, so I'll finish pretty soon here. So when I came to Scotland, something was going wrong, and I don't know why, in my gut, I felt too much estrogen in my body. And I went to the GP and I said, I think of too much estrogen in my body. It was actually a nurse. I think I said this yesterday. And I said, I asked for a HRT checkup. And here you get the nurse. Whereas a HRT checkup, you get the doctor at home. Not saying it's any better, any worse. I'm really not. Genuinely, I'm not. Because actually I have to say the NHS over here is amazing with me in the hospital and stuff like that. They couldn't be better. But I saw the nurse and I said to her, are you doing my blood test? She said, we don't do a blood test. So I said, okay, how do I know about my estrogen? I think of too much estrogen. She said, well, how do you feel? And I said, well, I don't know. Like, she said, do you want to come off it or whatever? And I said, oh, no. I suppose I feel okay. And I said, okay, well, I'll just continue for a while. Maybe I'll go down a pump, which means you pump. That's a pump. And then you do pump, and it's your inside of your leg, in my case. So I said, maybe I'll come down a pump. She said, yeah, okay. And I said, maybe I'll come down in my progesterone as well. So I did, because progesterone can turn into estrogen. You have to I swear to God, you need to learn all this stuff, because I said progesterone then, or not testosterone, can convert to estrogen. I don't know the ins and outs of it, but I do know that some weird thing that can happen there. So I said, maybe I'll come down on that as well. And I did. And this was all going on after I found my lump, but before I got to go for my first mammogram. So, and then I found out that I had the estrogen positive breast cancer. So I did say, oh my God, I've given it to myself. I shouldn't have been on estrogen. I've been layering that on. I've been really doing my own thing with it. And the doctor said, and the consultant, and I've said it to several of them, that you would have needed to have been on it a lot longer. I was on it, I think, I'm going to say, 2020 was when we went into lockdown. 20, I don't know. I think, I'm going to say 21, 22. I'm going to say two years. I don't know. A year and a half to 2.5 years. I don't know. I'd have to really look at that. But they said you'd have to be on it years. I don't know if I agree, because when you put it on, it's in your system. Whether you like it or not, it's in your bloodstream. So if you've got, I don't know how it all, as I get more information or look into it more, I will share it. But anyway, my cancer grew from too much estrogen in my body. So do the maths. I don't know. I have to trust the doctors. They're saying not at all. They did say, I told you this yesterday, that it can be stress. So they say stress, this particular cancer, stress, alcohol, estrogen. And I don't drink alcohol, so can't be alcohol, estrogen, yeah, and stress. 1000% stress. I've never been as stressed in my entire life as I have continually for one solid year. So that's it. I just wanted to share with you guys, if you're going to go on, and one in two people have cancer now. I don't want to scare people, because then I was saying, oh my God, is HRT bad? And my doctors here were saying, no, we do not want that message going out that HRT is bad. And we don't want you thinking HRT is bad. But what I would say to you is, there's no breast cancer in my family, no history of it at all. Mind you, they are saying now bowel cancer and ovarian cancer and breast cancer, they think can be linked. I've bowel cancer on my mum's side and my dad's side, and an aunt on each side. But you know what? I don't know. I really don't know. I can't. I don't know. Isn't it funny? There's cancer research going on for years and years and years and years and years, and it's still a minefield. And there's so many different types, and each consultant has a different way of treatment for each. Even though I have the same cancer as other people I've met, they've slightly different treatments to me, slightly different things happening. Some people didn't get a second marker in. Some have done chemo before the operation. Some haven't done radiotherapy. Some have done, only radiotherapy. Some have done only chemo. Like it depends. And again, I'm not an expert, so I don't know. I'm sure there's factors. So that's it for today. So thank you so much to the people who commented yesterday. You absolutely and utterly are my lifeline. I want you to know that. I appreciate so much people wishing me well and saying they've even watched this. For me, I feel connected because, as I said, I am isolated and lonely in a way that I actually watch YouTube. I've started watching YouTube a lot, and there's one particular woman, and her husband died recently of cancer, and she goes on YouTube every day, and I just go on and watch her, and she could be saying, I'm dyeing my hair today, I'm dyeing my hair, I have to clean the house, and then I'm going to go for a walk, but just, I feel I'm her friend now. It's really weird. I actually feel I'm her friend. I said it to her the other day. I said, I listen to you every day, and you make me feel like I'm there with you, and I feel I have a friend, and I feel, and she feels we're her friends. It's really strange. So I am on YouTube. I've started, I'm putting the videos on Facebook and on YouTube. So it's called Diary of an Irish Girl. So if you want, it's going to be on Facebook and YouTube, but just, I don't know if you're on YouTube and you prefer that. Thank you to all the people who got back to me yesterday. I genuinely looked, and the people who did comment, funny enough, I knew they would, and you're in my heart, really and truly in my heart, and I mean that, and I need you guys. So thank you so much for listening to me, and maybe tomorrow I'll talk about COVID lockdown and what that did to me. Okay, take care. Lots of love.